The following program contains graphic material, including offensive language. Viewer discretion is advised.
You're gonna be a man at 13, you better start acting like one.
Stay away from me, John Boy. Stay away! Don't worry, Mrs. Mann. He's perfectly all right. A little shaken up. I'm all right, Mama. I'll be back in a minute. I was just fixing him some hot soup. Oh, thank you, Mrs. Walton. Oh, Paul. Oh, we were so worried.
Science fiction, the great teacher, the great inspiration. It helps us see the endless possibilities of life. So let's be inspired together.
Come with me if you want to live.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over that horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
Something out interceptors. We have taken them completely by surprise.
Hello everybody, it's Commodore Jeff. Well, nice to see everybody here. I had some ideas and insights, I suppose you would want to call them, into some characters in Star Wars, and I wanted to share them with you. And I figured today's a good day to do it because it's been so hot outside. I didn't want to go out, so I've been kind of sticking around indoors here today till the heat lets up. But here it is. It's what, 6 o'clock, and it's still boiling out there. And it's not gonna. I guess it's gonna be the same for the next couple days. So anyway, oh, and since I'm on the matter of Star Wars, I bought this today. Well, actually, I got it in the mail. I ordered this online, but it's one of the characters from one of the new animated Star Wars shows on Disney Plus, and his name is Echo. He's a clone, and in the timeline of Star Wars, this character exists right into the transition between Episode 3 and Episode 4. Where the clones were being retired and replaced by regular people recruited by the Empire. And so the clones, like I said, were being let go by Grand Moff Tarkin. And you remember him from being in charge of the Death Star 1, until it blew up. It came to a hell of an end. Okay, so I wanted to talk about, the first thing is a what if kind of thing, because there's still people that don't understand where I'm coming from when I talk about how when we discuss the Chosen One, which is the thing in Star Wars that in the first 3 episodes 1, 2, and 3 kind of dealt with, because everybody in the Jedi assumed that the Chosen One, well, I'm going to say everybody, but Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, mostly Qui-Gon, felt that Anakin was the Chosen One, okay? And that he would bring balance to the Force. And there's still debate, even after the sequel trilogy had come out with Rey and the other, and people were debating whether Rey was actually the Chosen One, okay? And, because we thought the story was over in Return of the Jedi, but then they decided to add 3 more chapters into the story, which kind of muddied up the waters. But I think that the Chosen One really was Skywalker, Anakin's mother. Because, hear me out, she didn't have a husband to get pregnant by. She was impregnated by the Force, okay? That means the Force selected her out of all the billions of billions that lived in that galaxy. She was the chosen one to be impregnated by the Force. Okay, that's kind of like, modern day Catholicism when they're talking about, the mother of Jesus, okay, that she was impregnated by the Spirit, okay, and and in ways, the church really doesn't really say much about that, how important her role was in that whole story of Jesus. Without her, there would have been no Jesus, okay. Same thing with Shmi Skywalker. Without Shmi, there never would have been an Anakin. So people will ask, well, what significance is there in that? Anakin would have came anyway. Well, here's the point. Qui-Gon always believed that the Force is a living force, okay, and that we should just basically live the life, go with the flow of things, don't resist, don't fight it. The Force is guiding you every step of the way, and for a purpose, okay? That's how he dealt with the Force. That's why when he saw Anakin, he felt the Force was directing him to find Anakin. It was the will of the Force, and that Anakin was going to play some sort of role, an important role, because he had all those midichlorians in his body that made him super sensitive to the Force. So all the signs, all the flags were there that, hey, the Force is sending you a message, Qui-Gon, do something with this kid, okay? He's important to what's going to happen later on. So he did. So he brings Anakin, like I said, to the council, and the council's like, oh, he's too dangerous, his future's clouded, okay? Well, what they didn't realize is his future was clouded because the council hadn't made a decision. If they had made a decision about Anakin, okay, then they would have saw a direction in the future of where Anakin would be. But because they were resistant in allowing Anakin to be a member of the Jedi, his destiny was not clear, okay? Like Yoda said once, the future is always in motion. So when you're trying to see ahead into the future, a lot of things have to happen to get there and before. So that way that person or that Jedi can actually get a clearer picture as to what's going to happen to Anakin. Okay, but here's what would have happened, I guess, if Shmi never gave birth to Anakin. And this is how I would see the story playing out. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan never would have got to Coruscant. Okay? The problem on Padme's world would have got worse, and the Trade Federation would have held the planet and made trade more difficult. Okay, so tensions in the Republic would have escalated quicker than they did, as we saw it on the movies. Okay, so Palpatine's war or move to become Chancellor would have happened quicker. The war would have started sooner. Okay, and the Jedi would have still gotten involved in it and ended up the same way, all killed. Okay. And it probably would have been Dooku instead of Darth Vader who would have executed all the Jedi, what I'm saying? So the Republic, when they created the Clone Army, would have still happened, okay? And with everything that still happened, you take Anakin out of it, Obi-Wan becomes a non-participant, essentially, because like I said, in episode 1, they never would have got a way to get off of Tatooine. I know I say Coruscant, that was wrong, but Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan never would have found somebody to help them leave Tatooine. They'd have been stuck there on that planet, and perhaps even killed by Darth Maul eventually. I don't know. But the thing is they never would have left Tatooine because that ship of theirs that they used to flee Padme's world was broken down, and Anakin was the one that had to do the pod race in order for them to get the means to be able to fix the ship and leave Tatooine. Without Anakin, that never would have happened. Okay? A lot of things never would have happened. If you watch these movies and you say, well, Anakin's not there, a lot of things would have played out a whole lot different. And Palpatine's rise to power would have been quicker. He had to seize control of the galaxy sooner, and you know, how would he been defeated? You know, so the Empire would have been stopped. Who would have been able to stand against Palpatine? Okay, there wasn't anybody. Remember how all the Jedi, that ones that survived, fled and hid. Okay, nobody had the guts to go up against Palpatine. If they had all come together, you know, they might have had a chance, but instead they all fled to different corners of the galaxy. So Palpatine would have had his reign of terror in the galaxy far longer than he ended up having. Okay, there wouldn't have been that big climatic scene of Darth Vader throwing Palpatine into the endless pit there in the Death Star 2. Okay, that brought an end to the Empire. That never would have happened because there wouldn't have been a Luke Skywalker. Okay, so if you think about, when you take that one character at the very first movie, Shmi Skywalker, she is probably the most essential character in all of Star Wars, because without her, that story would have been just a big tragedy that never would have had a happy ending, or, you know, or anything. Okay, there would have been no Skywalkers to stop the Emperor. Okay, none. There wouldn't have been any Skywalkers, and the Jedi wouldn't have been able to defeat him. You know, just like they weren't able to defeat him before. Okay, so without Skywalker there, so Shmi was important. And to go back on the living Force thing, I would assume that the Force knew this, and knew that there was going to have to be an element in, or a monkey wrench in the works, as it were, to Palpatine's plan. And that monkey wrench would have to come in the form of a Force birth, okay, to a woman, and not just any woman, but to a woman with a kind, enduring heart. Okay, something that would still exist in every lineage of that family. Okay, which is why you know, Anakin was in love with Padme. Okay, he had a very caring heart. Okay, which Palpatine knew and was using against him, right? Okay, that got carried over even when he was Darth Vader. There was still a part of Darth Vader there that was sensed by Luke, his son, and his son knew that there was still good in him. Okay, and Luke himself, you know, a good person. You know, Leia, you could say the same. I mean, it's a character element that begun with Shmi and transcended into all the generations after her. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say she was the most likely person to be impregnated by the Force, because her personality traits would be essential in order to overthrow the dark side of the Force when it got into power. Okay, and that was the only way this was going to happen. That's the way the Force works. And so everything that happened in the movie had to happen exactly the way it did, because even the death of all the Jedi, because that was, you know, it's like stepping stones. There, you know, everything had to do this, you know, for this outcome to happen. Okay, there was no other way around it. You know what I'm saying? It had to happen, and the Jedi themselves had to be arrogant enough to make sure that this did happen, and they were. Okay, they didn't believe Qui-Gon about Anakin. They even up to the point when Anakin was fighting the clone. I mean, after all those years fighting the clones, they still didn't trust him. Okay, so they never really thought much of Anakin at all, and Anakin knew it. Okay, that was all intended to happen, to plant that seed of resentment in Anakin, so that way it facilitated his turning to the dark side that much easier, because the Force needed him to become Darth Vader, so that way Darth Vader would be the one to upend Emperor Palpatine's plans, as it were. Okay, and then even when you bring into the fact that we have those other three movies after that, and if you want to tie them into this, for those of you that still want to, you could say that Palpatine, that the granddaughter, I guess, of him, was also an element that would impact Palpatine in a way that would weaken him, and through the Force, okay, the living Force, she was able to stop the dark side, okay, because of Leia's son, okay, who again defeated the dark side because of his good nature. Even after he killed his father and all that, Han Solo, he still had a compassionate heart enough to be able to know when he went too far, and was able to try to redeem himself for Rey when it was needed, which gave the Force the opportunity to be able to fight back Palpatine and eradicate him once and for all. Okay, but here's the thing: the good and the bad, which is the central theme here of like Star Wars as a whole, good versus evil. In Star Wars, you can't have evil without good, and you can't have good without evil. That's what they're talking about, to bring balance to the Force, okay? Balance means that there has to be a good and an evil in the Force. And when you look at the Clone Wars, the animated series, you see that plays out even in that dimension they ended up in, where they see those three people that were in like a family. The old man, the father, the daughter was the good side of the Force, and the son the bad side of the Force. They were there, they existed that way, okay? And the dark side of the Force was trying to manipulate his father and his sister, okay? Which was, the results of which was upending the galaxy, okay? By him getting more power in the dark side, it was actually affecting what was happening in the real world, which was creating wars and all this shit that was going on, okay? So there was no balance in this dimension here of the Force, and it had to change. The good had to come back strong again in order to, keep everything in check, as it were. That's what balance means, okay? And so even though in the last movie we saw Palpatine destroyed, what made Palpatine evil still exists in the dark side of the Force, okay? The body of, or whatever that thing was that it inhabited, is gone, but the evil force of what was inside of him is still there, okay? It's still there, it still exists in the galaxy. It can't be all good and it can't be all bad. It has to be a balance. That's how the Force exists, apparently, okay? And so as long as the two sides are equal in strength, and they're able to keep each other in check, then the galaxy is safe and things will prosper. But the thing is that, like I said, Palpatine was, because we don't really know much of the backstory on Palpatine, from what I can tell. We know that he had a teacher and he killed him, okay? Which is what Sith do. When you feel you're strong enough to best your master, then you're supposed to kill him, all right? Because there can never be more than two, a master and an apprentice. An apprentice has to kill the master at some point in order to move up in the ladder of the dark side, whatever the hell you want to call it. Okay, and that's kind of what happened. So the dark side of the Force was building things up. It's the dark side of the Force also is sort of a living force where it had plans. Good side of the Force was working its plan on how to counter it, so that at the end the Force, good and bad, was balanced again, okay? So I know it sounds, a lot of mystical and things, but that's what Star Wars really is. It's not just science fiction. There's a lot of fantasy, mystical things, and sort of religious overtones. It's not like most other science fiction shows you see in the movies or on television, for that matter. This kind of science fiction is rooted in a lot of old classic, Dark Ages kind of English, you know what I'm saying? Knights and stuff for the round table. It sort of has derivatives of that, inside of Star Wars. So you have that playing out, and at the same time, the Force it has to stay mysterious in a way that no one can ever truly, completely understand, but Qui-Gon seemed to have a handle on it, okay? And when Dooku left the Jedi Order, you know, that kind of changed things for Qui-Gon, which I'll get into here after this commercial break. So
Superman movie is brought to you by Canon, the world's leading camera manufacturer.
Quick, it's happy!
Canavision 8 camcorders.
Hey, I thought you were Superman, huh?
Hey, I am!
If it moves, shoot it with a cannon.
The traffic.
I can't read
The
that.
boss. The baby. The dog. That does it. Calgon, take me away.
Lose your cares in the luxury of a Calgon bath. Calgon softens the water to leave skin feeling silky smooth as it lifts your spirits. The soft, luxurious, fragrant world of Calgon.
I love it.
Pamper yourself with a Calgon bath. Lose yourself in...
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
If I'm beaten and raped in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my rapist. If I am raped by my father, brother, or uncle and get pregnant in the state of Texas, I have to give birth to the baby of my family abuser. This new law is so draconian that I can be prosecuted for having an abortion, and so can my doctors, friends, and family who advise me, or even the Uber driver who simply drives me to the clinic. This is madness. The same people who have been protesting and screaming, "My body, my choice," when it comes to the COVID vaccine, are now saying I don't have any control over my own body. Texas Republicans won't require a 12-year-old girl to wear a mask in school that may save her life and the lives of other children, but they will force her to keep a baby regardless of how she got pregnant, including rape and incest. I am a woman, and I have a constitutional right to make decisions for my own body. I am a woman, and I have a human right to refuse to give birth to my rapist's baby. I am a woman. This is my body. I am a woman. This is the United States of America. I am a woman. You do not own or control my mind or my body. Shame on the men and women who passed this law, and shame on anyone who sits in silence while women suffer and die because of it.
Little cinnamon gum freshens breath longer than Big Red.
So kiss a little longer, stay close a little longer, hold tight a little longer, longer with Big Red. That Big Red freshness lasts right through it. Your fresh red goes on and on. While you chew it, say goodbye a little longer, make it last a little longer. Give your breath long-lasting freshness with Big Red.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay. All right, so I was talking about how things would have played out without what I consider to be the chosen one, Shmi Skywalker. Okay, without her, there wouldn't have been a fucking Star Wars movie story at all. Okay, you know, if she didn't give birth to Anakin, the movie just would have been sour grapes all the way to its bitter end, and the bad guys would have won. Okay. Instead, the Force selected her to give birth to the element that was going to upend Palpatine's rise to power, or his eventual, or him trying to take over the damn galaxy, which he damn near did. Okay. So, and then I got on the topic of Qui-Gon Jinn and Count Dooku. Now, about that, we know that Count Dooku left the Jedi Order about 10 years before the Attack of the Clones. Okay, and he left because he was just fed up with the Senate and the Jedi Order. Okay, they weren't listening to him. He knew something was coming up. He knew there was going to be the dark side was on the rise, because he heard it from some other Jedi. There was you know, a couple, 2-3 Jedi that knew about this was going to happen, and every one of them left the Senate because it was like beating your head against the wall trying to convince the Jedi Council. Arrogance again. Okay, Yoda didn't want to hear it. Mace Windu didn't want to hear it. None of the elders on the council wanted to hear it. Okay, and the Senate was becoming more and more useless. Okay, things are breaking out in the galaxy that shouldn't be happening, like little fights here, one world against another, and trade routes being disrupted. You know, the galaxy was sort of falling apart, and nobody seemed to be able to know how to deal with anything, and it was creating a lot of political friction in the galaxy. And Dooku just, you know, didn't want any more with it, because he felt like, you know, nobody cared about him anymore. This was a guy who had some prestige in the Jedi Council. Okay, a man of notoriety, very important figure, not one to be taken lightly. Okay, he had, and a lot of the Jedi, even in Episode 2 of Star Wars, like Mace Windu, spoke highly of the guy, figured they, you know, because they figured they knew him, and said, oh, you know, he wouldn't do something like that. You know, he's not an assassin. You know, so, you know, he was highly respected in the council. And Qui-Gon was one of his friends. I mean, they were really close, I guess. You remember he had mentioned that to Obi-Wan when he was captured, basically, and Dooku was talking to him, and he said, Qui-Gon knew about the corruption in the Senate, and he probably would have joined him. And so Qui-Gon was one of those Jedi that knew things were going to happen, but because he had such a belief in the living Force, he felt that him taking any action to leave or do something wouldn't have been in kind to what he felt he should do as a Jedi, which is to basically let the Force move him through life in the direction the Force wanted. He's just a vessel for the Force to do what he wants. Okay, so he's like Forrest Gump. Okay, where Forrest Gump just does what he does no matter where he's at. You put him in the middle of the war and he's still Forrest Gump. You put him on the moon, he's still Forrest Gump. You know what I'm saying? He's just living his life like a leaf in the air, like you see at the end of the movie. That's what Qui-Gon is trying to do here. He's letting the Force, which is the wind, carry him anywhere that the wind takes him, the Force takes him. Okay, because there's a purpose behind it all. There's a reason he's going here. There's a reason it's taking him over here, okay? Which is why it took him to Tatooine and why he found Anakin, because he was the vessel. And at the same time, he's also very aware of this going on, and he wanted to tell the council, look, I found this kid. His metachlorian count was off the fucking charts, okay? And the odds of me finding him, landing on Tatooine, okay, walking around the planet and running into this wonder, this wonder child, okay, who happens to have no father. Are you telling me that this doesn't mean anything to you? And that's basically what Yoda and Mace Windu were saying, is like, oh, he's too dangerous, get him the hell out of here. They were throwing away a huge friggin' message here from the Force, but they didn't see it, okay? They didn't see it because they didn't think like Qui-Gon Jinn. They couldn't reason that there's another higher level of reality inside this Star Wars universe that's moving things like a chessboard, okay? And every person, even people who aren't Force sensitive, every person, every character in there has a function in the Force to do things, and they're not even aware of it. They think they're making their own choices, and it's really the Force that's doing it. Okay, Qui-Gon is understanding of that. Okay, because he knows that like you said, everybody carries these things around, but it's only a few of us are very sensitive to what they're saying. Okay, and so. When I guess maybe Qui-Gon tried to convince Dooku of that, and Dooku just said, "Oh, fuck that! I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to deal with this on a different way." And so he leaves the Order, and Qui-Gon is left, okay, inside the Order, and Qui-Gon has pretty much had it up to here with the Order and the Senate and everything. And he's, when the council rejected Anakin, I think that was kind of like the last straw for him. I mean, if he hadn't have died in that saber duel with Darth Maul, he probably would have left the Order anyway. Okay, he probably would have left because, I mean, what more can the guy do to try to convince the council that Anakin was important to the future of the galaxy, or the future of something? He didn't know if it would be the galaxy or what, but he knew he was going to be an important figure in days to come. Okay, and it was important that he be trained by good people. He felt maybe that was, what should happen, but I don't think Qui-Gon really understood that, him being good was not really the important factor here. It was that he had the ability to use the Force, and that he was destined to be manipulated, to be like a worm on a hook, basically, for Palpatine, to say, come and get me, I got all this power, and and I'm weak because I got real good feelings, for Padme and my mother's emotions, come and get me. It was too tempting for Palpatine to resist. He had to have that kid, okay, because that only would have made him stronger, to have an apprentice that was so strong on the Force, okay, that he might even have overthrown Palpatine himself at some point. Okay, and Anakin could have ended up ruling the galaxy, if things played out different. But the way they played out, he was essential, even after that devastating fight that he had with Obi-Wan. Okay, Palpatine himself was weakened by Mace Windu in their fight. So even in the state that Anakin ended up in, wearing a life support suit, if you want to call it, he still could hold his own against the Emperor, and Palpatine knew that. He needed to have somebody that was not damaged, that was fresh, to be able to take down Vader, so that way he could feel, you know, that he was more powerful again. That's where Luke Skywalker comes in. Okay, he had to get his son, and bringing Luke in there and getting him to kill his father was Palpatine's plan. But he never factored in, you know, the family lineage of the Shmi, the Golden Heart, I want to call it, you know, that Luke would never kill his father, no matter how mad you made him. He wasn't going to do it. He might beat the shit out of him and cut off his hand, but it's still his father. He ain't going to do it, okay? And, you know, Anakin saw that, and Luke, and seeing that, you know, he was able to stop himself from going any further, where Anakin wasn't. And so that was, I think that was the moment that, you know, Anakin realized that, you know, the dark side isn't all that powerful, isn't all powerful. It's not all unyielding. You know, my son, you know, who was just a, you know, beginner Jedi, you know, was able to beat back Palpatine's temptations, okay, because he felt something for him, okay? He felt something for him, and he took the beating from Palpatine that he was living out him. And what did that do? That only brought Anakin right back from Vader, okay? When Vader saw that, Vader died, and then Anakin reemerged and fought back to save his son. You see, that part of Shmi inside of Luke and Vader was essential to ending the reign of terror of Palpatine, okay? Goodness defeating evil, okay? And so that's why I say there's a reason why I think that Shmi is the chosen one, okay? And she's the most important character of all the characters in Star Wars, the most important character, even more important than the Emperor or Palpatine himself, because otherwise this story would have had a whole different ending, and it wouldn't have been a nice one. Okay, it wouldn't have been nice. It would have been a galaxy ruled by the dark side of the Force, like it had been 1,000 years before. Okay, and it would have been a 1,000-year fight to see the Sith defeated again, if it could be. And so I feel like this had to happen. When you have to sit and watch that movie, and you got to remember, keep that in mind. I mean, maybe Lucas didn't actually intend for this to play out that way. Okay, I don't know how deep Lucas was into the way he was writing the story out, but he may have accidentally, you know, answered his own questions, or answered the fans' questions in the stories that he wrote. He might have accidentally did that in his own way. Okay, he maybe shit bullcrap with dialogue, okay? You know, with characters talking. But he seemed to understand what he was trying to do with the Force in the story. I think he understood something about the Force and how it was going to play a role in this whole bunch of movies that he was going to make, okay? And I think that's why I think we see sort of a pattern here when you watch these movies. And I don't think a lot of the fans noticed it yet, but I think if they watch it, if you see this video, watch those movies again, and remember what I said about Shmi being the chosen one, and how without her, none of those things that you saw in the movies after that ever would have happened exactly the way they did. Further into the future you go, the more bizarre the outlook is going to be. There'd be no hope for the galaxy. There'd be no New Hope. There wouldn't have been no Empire Strikes Back. Okay, it all would have ended in the third film, where the Empire reigned forever, okay, for 1,000 years, okay, because there would have been no hope or nobody left to stand in Palpatine's way, okay? And so that's why it's very important. You have to remember when they, you know, it's like what Mace Windu had said in Episode 3, or Yoda said in Episode 3, that they may have misinterpreted, you know, the one belief and stuff, you know, they may have not have read it right. Okay, they may have thought that Anakin was the chosen one, and all along it wasn't. That wasn't what it meant. It meant the chosen one was somebody or something else. Okay, and it wasn't Anakin. It wasn't Luke Skywalker. It wasn't Kylo Ren or whatever you say, and it wasn't Rey. It was Shmi. Without Shmi, none of these other characters would have had any business at all in the films. It never would have happened. Okay, you had to have that family drama of the Skywalkers playing out through all the decades of the Star Wars saga. Without that family lineage there, this whole thing would have been a whole different. Okay, and like I said, the Force is aware of the future, the present, and the past. Okay, Yoda had said that. It's like when you connect to the Force, you're aware of all points in time. You see everything. Okay, that's how the Force exists. It's like the Force, time has no meaning in the Force. Okay, and so it sees everything, and as a result, it can deal with the people in the real world like chess pieces, moving them around, making it, having them do things, so things end up the way they want to see it. The Force, I mean, they depicted the Force to be sort of, three people living in a dimension that we don't know what the hell it is, okay? But that might have been a representation of what the Force does in a way that they could understand it, but it might be a lot more alien or sophisticated in that way, sort of like a Q dimension, if you want to call it that, the Q continuum, that that the Force lives in a thing like that. But it can manipulate events. It can manipulate people, especially when you have an opposition in that continuum that's trying to trip up the works. So you have a sort of an interdimensional war happening, along with the Star War that's going on in the real world. So it's war here, war up here, and one is being manipulated by the other. All right, and so Shmi Skywalker was chosen because she was liked by the Force, the good side of the Force, for her kindness, her heart, her, what I'm saying, and knew that any child she had would have her personality, would care. That would be just what the good side needed in order to defeat the bad side. Because the bad side of the Force, as we all know, they don't give two shits about anybody's life. Okay, everything is a fucking game of sadistic masochism. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what the Sith want to do. They just want to reign with and turn reality into a living hell. Okay. And they'll just sit back and laugh at it. That's basically all they want, okay? But because they're so hateful and evil, they can't see that the good side of the Force was also manipulating him. He was also being manipulated by dangling Anakin in front of him and saying, come and get him, Palpatine, look at this guy, you're gonna love this one. You thought Dooku was powerful, you thought Darth Maul was powerful, but this one's even better. Come and get him. It was a bait and switch kind of thing for the dark side of the Force, and Anakin was the poison pill for the Sith. And so I feel like that's how you can answer who the chosen one is in Star Wars. It has to be Shmi Skywalker, people. It has to be. Without a mother to give birth to the most important, character in Star Wars, you ain't got shit. You ain't got a story. It's just tragedy. It's all it'll be. There's no hope. If you got no hope, why the hell watch the fucking movie? It's just like, So anyway, that's basically what I wanted to talk about today, and I hope everybody followed what I was trying to say here, and maybe come to some kind of understanding where, what I'm saying about maybe reevaluate your position as to who you think the chosen one is, and if you're really certain about who you think it is, I would appreciate you sending me a message and letting me know how you feel about that, or how about or what I said about it, and tell me your idea of who the chosen one is and why. Okay, because you can't really answer the chosen one without understanding the living force, which is what Qui-Gon introduced to us in Episode 1, which something Obi-Wan didn't really get, I think, until much later in his life, before he died, fighting Vader. Okay, so we know the living force is also a pretty important thing. And so, with all that being said, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and I will talk to you later. So take care, everybody.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over, what's beyond our own shores.
We are not sending out interceptors. We have taken them completely by surprise.
Because I think that the tradition of an engineer is a Scot. You know, because all the great motor ships and the steamships of the world were built on the Clyde.